Hello and welcome to the SquadCon Black Girls Hack Know Before You Go. Some tips and tricks to survive Hacker Summer Camp. I am your guide for today. I'm InfoSec Sherpa, also known as Tracy Maleeff, and joining me today is the lovely Rebekah Skeete. Rebekah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello there. My name is, in fact, Rebekah Skeete, and I have the joy and pleasure of being the COO for BlackGirlsHack.
I am a squirrel in my world, and Rebekah's a nut in my world. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I so full disclosure, I have not been to Hacker Summer Camp in 3 years, but I have done it on a broke budget and I have done it on an expense account. So I feel like I have a good experience of it. And Rebekah, you've been a few times, correct?
Yes, every year since 2019.
Nice, nice. Um, so yeah, some things are a little different from the first time I went in 2016, but some things are the same. And so we're just going to go all over it now. So let's begin. Welcome. All right. So first, for some general overview, what to pack if you still need to pack, the traveling once you're there, and parting thoughts. So Hacker Summer Camp is comprised of a couple different conferences. Hacker Summer Camp is the collective name. So you have your Black Hat, you have your BSides Las Vegas, you have your DEF CON. Those are the big three that people attend. In order, they usually appear like that. It's usually BSides Las Vegas first, then Black Hat, then DEF CON. Then you also have some other conferences like our own SquadCon, the Diana Initiative. There's also QueerCon, ShabbatCon, and there's so many other smaller ones in meetups. So just know that Hacker Summer Camp is a collective term under which many things follow. So you can expect to see maybe, 60,000, maybe more, 100,000 of your closest hacker friends. So what to pack? Dress for comfort. You're going to want to dress in layers. It is going to be very hot. Rebekah, do you mind looking up real quick what the temperature is in Las Vegas? It's going to be very hot outside. It's going to be very dry outside. Inside is going to be very dry, but very cold because Las Vegas loves and Americans love air conditioning. So if you're traveling here from outside the US, be aware of that. If you're traveling to Hacker Summer Camp from inside the US, bring layers, whether that's a cardigan or a hoodie or what have you. So what's the temperature?
It ranges from a low of 104 degrees to of the highs,
Yeah.
104, 106, 109, 108 during the day. So, and then the lows in the evening ranges from 74 to 80.
And for any international folks, the highs like just say it's like 40. I don't know. I'm not that good at Fahrenheit to Celsius. Look it up, but it's
It's
hot.
hot.
So
It's
it's
really hot.
hot. It's hot. So you're going to want to dress in layers, because of that. You also find that you're going to be, you might start to feel a little unwell going back and forth from extreme heat and extreme cold. So take precautions. Break in new shoes, or another way to say this is do not bring or do not wear brand new shoes. You will hurt yourself. I have done this. This is a rookie mistake. Your your outfit may be cute, but you're going to want some sneakers. This is not the time for heels. You're going to be standing a lot, you're going to be walking a lot. You want comfortable shoes. Bring extra undergarments. I don't know why I have to say this, but you are going to get so sweaty. You're going to want clean clothes. I've had people say before, do I have to wear black because it's a hacker thing? No, I have shown up and presented at a DEF CON village wearing a pink shirt with a floral skirt. Okay, you wear you do you. And I've seriously have been asked this question too many times. You do not have to wear black. You do not have to wear hacker clothing. You can, if you want to, wear whatever makes you feel comfortable. Okay. um I advise bringing a collapsible water bottle, but any water bottle is good. I would recommend bringing some electrolytes with you. You can get powdered Gatorade or, Powderade or all those things. You're going to get very dehydrated. Stay hydrated. Eat fruit, lettuce, things like that, salad and vegetables. Rebekah, have you had any experience with the water bottles and staying hydrated while you were out there?
Yeah, it's definitely important to do because that I would say with the average person, you forget. You would think that it's not something you forget to do, but you get in the hustle and bustle of things, or you'll grab a Coke or something else and not water. So making sure that you have that bottle is key because there will be plenty of places to refill it and to get that option. But having it with you there is also going to help you be more mindful to make sure that you're drinking your water. And it doesn't matter like if during the year you usually average 3,000 steps or what have you, the nature of the way Vegas is set up and with the strip and everything else, you will increase your steps. And so even if your standard water intake is normally enough, with the added activity and the heat, definitely don't take that for granted and make sure that you stay hydrated.
Excellent advice. Thank you. This next tip is a little bit extra, and if you're close to leaving, you may not have time to do this, but I like to have a collapsible electric kettle, usually about $14 or so. And you're thinking, you're taking, you want hot water in the middle of the desert in August. There's a reason why. Starbucks costs way more in Vegas than it does where you live, most likely. And the lines are really long. So I found a great way, even when I was on an expense account, to have my morning coffee is bring a travel mug, bring some powdered creamer, bring some coffee, bring tea bags. I'd also bring instant oatmeal just to have something in my stomach before going out, because again, it's going to be really expensive. Lines are going to be long. So anything you can do to keep your health up is going to enable you to have a great conference. So remember, out if you go outside, sunscreen, sunglasses, hat. Inside, that AC is going to dry you out. So make sure you have some lotion and lip balm. Remember COVID? Remember that? That's kind of making a comeback. So, antibacterial gel, masks, again, whatever makes you feel comfortable. But if you haven't packed already, these are some things you should look into. And some safety stuff to pack. You need to be, aware of your safety at all times. These are just examples from Amazon. You can purchase from whatever, retailer you choose, but it's good to make sure you have some safety for the hotel room, making sure that the doors are locked securely. You should already know not to plug into any random USB ports and make sure you have some data blockers. And hopefully you do not have to experience this at all, but there have been reports over time of, people having drinks spikes. So that's a little drink cover that also doubles as a scrunchie for your hair. So you can wear it on your wrist or in your hair when you need it. Rebekah, do you have any comments about safety? Any other precautions?
Better to err on the side of caution, keep your head on a swivel. We're not saying that definitively this is, all these things are going to happen, but it's better. What do they say? An ounce of prevention is better.
Yeah, worth a cure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So err on the side of caution, double up, especially. And I know I'm adventurous and I go off on things on my own. Try to avoid that if you can. If there are people that you know that are there, buddy system, and check in with folks. And it's like I said, it's better to err on the side of caution. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. If you do wander off, just let someone know. But I mean, probably shouldn't wander off, but if you find that you have to, yeah, let someone know. Have a buddy to check in with, exactly what Rebekah said. Now, even though my husband, when I went to Vegas and my husband was across the country, I would still check in with him. I would let him know. And again, all for safety, not not for any other weird reason, but for my safety. I would say, I am leaving the hotel and like, good morning. I am leaving my hotel room for the morning, or I am in for the evening. So just so that he's aware, like, okay, if she's either in the hotel or she's out. But then locally it'd be like, hey, I'm going to dinner, would you like to join me? I'm going to be at this place. And then connect with people locally. So it's good to maintain connections. I think that having a roommate is the best way to do Vegas, to be honest, not only for cost savings, but just to make sure that somebody knows that you're missing. Hopefully you don't go missing, but I would like somebody to know. So you're going to look at the agendas for all these conferences and be like, wow, this is a lot. So even if you're flying out there soon, on the plane, figure out ahead of time where you want to be, schedule some breaks, factor in the travel, factor in that you may have to stand in a long line to get into a session and miss 3 other sessions that you want to attend. Try to figure out what's recorded versus what you have to be there for. Like, there's some talks that do not allow recording. And so if you're choosing between a talk that is going to be recorded and posted later versus one that no recording is allowed, you're out there. Go experience the things in person. So keep that in mind. It's going to be very crowded. You may not be able to get into everything you want to see, but kind of prioritize things, whether or not they're recorded, whether or not it's somebody you really want to hear talk, or if it's something that's really of interest to you. So really be strategic when you plan your sessions. Vendor parties, be courteous to the vendors. If you go to the exhibit hall or talk to them, they're just trying to do their job. Everybody always has this anxiety of, I don't have any purchasing power. Okay, but the folks that are just trying to do their job. So don't be rude. You can just politely say, I don't have any influence or purchasing power, but I would like to know about your product. Can you show me? Rebekah, do you have any thoughts on dealing with vendors at conferences?
I think that be kind is fair. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for people who are in on those exhibit floors or whatever, especially if it's the first time that you've seen it. It's a lot of people, a lot of activity, but golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated. It's okay to tell people exactly what you said, don't have purchasing authority so that they know they can plan accordingly. And I think the planning ahead is a really good note. There's different vibes, for lack of a better term, at each of the conferences. So what works for one might not work for another. You'll have to adapt it. But then, planning that out and looking to see is exactly what will help you as far as how your planning goes. And then making sure the point prior about making sure that you're hydrated and you have something on your stomach, that also goes a long way with being kind. Because if you're hot and hungry, you're more likely to be rude. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's the main thing I would think. And then for the vendor parties, there's a lot of them that are also open, but like you said, just requires the RSVP. If there are some that you haven't seen or what have you, look at some of the vendors that currently interact with your company or maybe an organization that you're interested in working with. Because a lot of them will have on their websites the events that they have. And so that you could potentially, if you haven't received an invitation yet, they probably have like an open deal that you can sign up to register on their website. So that might be another
That,
potential opportunity.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, if you haven't already received an invitation from a vendor that you currently use, because maybe you're not on their radar because you're not the contact person or whatever. But yeah, you could go up to a vendor booth and say like, hey, my company uses you. I'd like, are there any extra invitations or things like that? Yeah, again, just be kind and true story. I mean, when I was still a librarian, I went to the late, may it rest in peace, ShmooCon, and I would go up to vendor booths. I literally went up to Palo Alto and said, "Hi, I'm new to this whole, cybersecurity thing. What does your company do? Can you show me your products?" And I've told people this, and somebody said, you told Palo Alto you didn't know who they were," and I was like, yeah. I'm like, what? And you know how they reacted? They were open arms. Oh, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Come over here. Let me show you what we do. I'll explain this to you. They couldn't have been nicer. Okay. I have never had a cybersecurity vendor treat me poorly when I was honest and polite and just said, look, I don't know what you do. I'm not sure who you are. Can you just show me for a minute, please? No one is going to be rude to you. And if they are, then you know what? You just walk away and live your life. But you know what? Be nice. You're gonna, you can get some swag, maybe get an invite. If you do respond to something and flake out or get a better offer, try to make sure you cancel because it's just polite. So, somebody might be waiting for an invite to clear, a wait list to clear. So yeah, and again, don't get so drunk that you embarrass yourself or heaven forbid your company. Do not embarrass yourself or your company, whether you like it or not. You are representing your company, especially if people there know you. So yeah, just be cool. You can have some fun experiences. And how to find these events. There's things like on Twitter, like and online, the DEF CON parties. There's some tips and things. Keep an eye on social media. I think a lot of places may be resurrecting their Twitter X accounts. So if you haven't visited that site in a while, it may be some accounts may have reactivated for summer camp. Did I miss anything, Rebekah, on how to find parties?
No, I think that's pretty good. And then also the companies themselves. If you're on LinkedIn, there are a few, I've seen a couple of the orgs that I follow have said, hey, we'll be at Black Hat, we'll be at DEF CON, what have you. Feel free to interact with those as well. A lot of people, or check the various hashtags or whatever, because they will uh, articulate or amplify the fact that they will be there and where
Yeah.
they'll be. So that'll give you an opportunity to interact with them prior to as well.
Great, great. Yeah. And in case you haven't picked up on this yet, Hacker Summer Camp's a lot of work. Like it really is. Like you need to prepare. There's a lot going on. It's worth it and it's fun, but it's a lot of work. You don't take this lightly. So this may be too late for some of you, but you want to fly into Las Vegas. It used to be called McCarran, and I still know it as McCarran, but it's technically Harry Reid Airport. There's an app called Curb, in case you're not familiar with it, but it's how you can pay through an app for taxis. And, you know, if the taxi participates with Curb, you can do it. I've used this in New York City before. I did look up when I created this slide that it works in Vegas. So just look into the app yourself. But, you know, in case you're not one to carrying cash or, you know, credit card or things like that, you can do that. There's all kinds of ways you can get from the airport into town. Again, I advise that you look it up ahead of time. Be mindful at the Las Vegas airport, the ride shares are in Timbuktu. It's out of the terminal, in the parking garage, and down some path with a troll, and you have to like cross a bridge or something. I don't know, it's really far. Be mindful of that. If you have any mobility issues or if you have a ton of luggage, you know, Uber or Lyft or other rideshare may not be the best way to get from the airport to your hotel, but your mileage may vary. Just keep in mind again, so not only is the rideshare stop at the airport in Timbuktu, my experience is that the rideshare at all the different casinos is even further away. So again, keep in mind if you have, you know, if you're running on a schedule, if you know, for timing, disability issues, or large groups, if you're trying to corral a large group of people to a ride share, keep in mind that because of the taxi lobby, the ride shares have been relegated to far off in the hinterlands. So keep that in mind, and also just be safe. You know, before you get in, make sure the person, you know, is there for you. You know, don't feed them any information. Don't say, "Are you here for Tracy?" Because they're going to be like, "Sure." No, who are you here for? You know, make sure you match the license plate. Don't grab a ride from someone who's just like, "Hey, do you want a ride somewhere?" And then always let someone know. If the app, you know, gives you the opportunity to let someone know about your ride or send it to someone at home, make sure someone knows in which vehicle you've gotten into. That's a good thing. So any other safety tips about that?
More of a informational add-on there for SquadCon this year, with us being at the Sahara. The benefit of so many folks staying in the same place that the event will be, that'll cut down on some of the need for in between the conference time anyway. But the other good thing is that the Sahara is on the monorail stop. So that's also another transportation option that you have as well.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I forgot about the monorail. Yeah. So yeah, so definitely, I mean, I'm not telling people not to take rideshare, but especially in a place in Las Vegas with there's going to be so many more people in town. Uh, you know, you just need to practice some safety and be mindful. And in my case, expect drivers to uh, not identify you as a hacker, and they usually think I'm in. When I've gone to Las Vegas in the past, people usually ask if I'm there for the Tupperware convention or the animal convention, and I'm like, no, I'm here for the hacker convention. And that usually throws them. But yeah, which is just to say that, which reminds me, the locals are familiar with Hacker Summer Camp. Like they're going to know more than you probably. And a lot of times they're also forewarned about us. But yeah, so don't be surprised if you get into a Lyft or a cab or an Uber and they just like, they're like, "Oh, you're a hacker." Like they're very savvy. The locals are savvy to Hacker Summer Camp. So don't be surprised if they know who you are when you're coming. Some other safety stuff. This first bullet point came to me from Mary Galloway, who's the CEO of Women's Society of Cyberjitsu, a sister association to BlackGirlsHack. She is a Las Vegas resident year round, and said to assume that all the ATMs in or near a casino are compromised. So this comes from a local resident. So either bring your cash from home or make a point. Her recommendation last year when we did this type of call was to even just, take an Uber or a car somewhere like outside of the strip area and, get cash, do your shopping, things like that. Be mindful of posting on social media. Like if you walk into your hotel room and post the view, there are a lot of people who can identify your room number from that view. So you can post things later after you're gone, but just be mindful about posting things on social media in real time that could identify your location in such a way that it would harm you. So like posting the view from your hotel room, things like that. Be mindful of fake cell towers. This actually happened at a hacker summer camp once. You can read the article about it. Some of these things we mentioned already, have a buddy, have a safety person. When you go, a lot of these conferences have quote unquote goons, the security staff. At DEF CON, they wear red shirts. I'm not sure about other conferences, but a red shirt is typically the hacker summer camp symbol for a goon, who is someone who can help you. And hopefully you won't need their assistance. Unfortunately, I have in the past, and they are no nonsense, right on it. Got me out of a difficult situation. And so any other safety thoughts before we move on, do you think?
Specific to SquadCon for Wi-Fi, we've worked with the hotel and we have a dedicated SSID for
Oh,
our
nice.
attendees, and that will be available in the app. So they'll have specific access limited to our attendees there. And then as far as folks who are available to aid and assist, they'll be wearing SquadCon t-shirts similar to this one, but for this year. And the other thing that I like about our setup for SquadCon this year is we're in the conference center of the Sahara. There's only one way for folks to get in or get out, so we can gate who all is in there. It's not people who are just milling about in the hotel. If they're up near the conference rooms, it's because they've gone through registration, they've checked in, and they're supposed to be there.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And yeah, like I hope people don't think we're overreacting, but Hacker Summer Camp is a big experience in OPSEC, basically. So this is what you need to be aware. So it's good to know, who can help you. All right. So let's go over some myths and misconceptions. I swear people like to put newbies through a hazing. Some of the advice and tips and warnings I was given in 2016 before I went, it was so bad that my husband was like, should you even be going to this? Like, this sounds really dangerous. And it's because, either people think it's fun to make it seem like it's this big, dangerous event. It's really not that dangerous. You just need to be mindful of some things. So first of all, you don't really need a burner phone. That's usually people say like, oh, get a burner phone. Don't bring your phone. Just use some regular precautions. Maybe if there's some apps you don't see yourself using, like your bank app, maybe take your bank app, or you definitely log out of it, go in there. If you have to bring a laptop, use precautions. I mean, at any rate anymore, this is all just normal stuff when you go outside that you need to protect yourself from. A lot of these kind of burner phone suggestions came from, correct me if I'm wrong, Rebekah, if you know differently, but I believe those warnings came from like the early days of this, when Black Hat was much more of like a true hacker conference, right? It wasn't as big as it was now. I think it was it was much smaller, and I think it was a little bit more susceptible to things being hacked. Does that sound right to you?
That does sound right for Black Hat and DEF CON. Early days of DEF CON, yeah, when it was a bit more elite hackers and what have you. The other thing, though, I think is sometimes for some folks, it's necessary to state the extreme, and because it is a possibility. While it might
Yeah.
not be a high probability, it's a possibility. And for some folks, I think it's necessary to let them know the worst that could potentially happen, because the way the pendulum swings with their interest and response is, oh my gosh, okay, I guess I need to do something. Where if it's like, hey, just practice standard, then people won't do anything. And that's not what we want. We want people to be, cautious and what have you. And so I think sometimes that's part of giving at least the benefit of the doubt as to the folks who've given the extreme layout. I think that's part of it too. If like to let people know to take some precaution and be aware.
Exactly, exactly. So, and point number two, there really could be actual criminals there. There could actually be law enforcement there. There's always a joke of spot the Fed, which means, spot the Fed means identify, the federal employee, but and I'm just explaining what that is in case you hear it. I remember hearing that my first year. Nobody told me what it meant. I'm like, what? So in summary, that bullet point means there's going to be people there with good intentions and people there with bad intentions. You choose what you think, they are for people. But just like Rebekah, there's going to be a spectrum of activity here. Respect the no photography or recording policies. Don't go around, don't walk down a hallway in DEF CON, especially DEF CON, just recording with your phone. Don't do that. You will meet the goons very quickly, if not some disgruntled attendees. There are people who attend these events who do not want to be photographed for reasons that are none of your business. So don't be flippant with the videos and the photos and stuff like that. Be a minimalist. Leave your jewelry at home. Leave irreplaceable items at home. I just feel like that's just the best way to also not worry about it. I hate constantly worrying. Do I have my phone? Do I have this? Do I have everything? And line con, I mentioned before, expect to sit in lines, but use that opportunity to network with people or to read, or something like that. The Wi-Fi might be really slow, so you may need to bring a book with you. You may not be able to rely on your phone. Speaking of phones, again, one last thing is, now this is what I do. Not everybody may be able to do this, but if I'm not actively using my phone in Hacker Summer Camp, it goes into airplane mode. And then periodically I will check, because I have witnessed before the fake cell towers. I've watched my phone go from, G or whatever down to like 1G and go back up again. And I've been told that that's one of the telltale signs that it's a fake cell tower if you start to see your connection go up and down. So you know what? I didn't want to worry about it. So I just put it in airplane mode and, took it off when I needed it. So that's something that I recommend, because then I didn't have to worry the whole time. And also when I didn't put it in airplane mode, I accidentally butt dialed a friend so many times that he thought I was in danger. So let's just avoid that.
Taking that in airplane mode, also taking off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, specifically more so on the DEF CON side of the week.
Yeah, Black Hat anymore is very corporate. BSides is, it's fine. I'm thinking as far as like cyber threats goes. There may be some shenanigans at BSides, but they lock that down pretty well. And then DEF CON is kind of a free for all. You're going to have a lot of people there who want to experiment with hacking in public. So yeah, just to keep in mind that. So networking with people, like I said, if you're going to be standing in a long line, and you don't have a book, start to talk to people. If you are not good with interpersonal communications, maybe make friends with someone who can help introduce you to people. I love to do that all the time. I have no problem walking up to people and introducing myself and being like, and have you met my friend Rebekah? I do that. Take notes. Even if you don't understand what they're talking about. When I went to my first ShmooCon, I would go to sessions and I would write down words or phrases that I didn't know. And I would either, after the session was over, I would either ask people around me, or sometimes I would just go up to the presenter and just, again, be like, hi, I'm new to this. You said something that sounded like this, and he took my pencil, corrected it. No, I said this, it's pronounced like this, it means this. Do not be afraid to do this. You are advocating for yourself on this trip. You need to have ROI, return on investment, right? You need to come out of this with more people in your network, more knowledge. And how do you do that? You need to take notes. Attend sessions that, even if you don't understand the topic, do one thing every day that scares you to help build yourself. Believe me, when I went to that first ShmooCon, there were so many topics that I didn't even understand, but I understood the word Linux in one of the session titles. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to that session. So just go to something you don't even understand. It's fine. Take notes, write things down. It may come up later. All of a sudden you may like, oh, wait, I know that topic. I didn't understand the session, but I sat through it. That would impress me as a manager of, if I had a new employee who's like, hey, I don't know about this, but I just sat through a hacker summer camp, talk about it, and let me share with you what I learned there. Embrace the exhibit hall. A lot of people avoid the exhibit hall. You can get all the socks you want, right? You can get all kinds of swag and free stuff, and there's games, and sometimes there's food and drinks and talk to people. I love the exhibit hall. So my mouth is getting dry. Why don't you go ahead? Any other things to do you recommend?
Yes, in regards to the follow-up later, and you mentioned going to speak to the speakers. That's awesome. One of the things I love about SquadCon is for the fact that it's a smaller, community-based size event. there's a little bit more flexibility to do that without having some extensive line to speak to the speaker afterwards. With that though, I would echo what we said about when you're speaking to vendors and things like that. Also be kind, because people have packed schedules or what have you. And while they might be willing to speak, some might be willing and not have the time. Some might have a set amount of time so they can answer one or two questions. So I would just say keep that in mind. If it appears that the person is in a rush, it might be best to connect and say, how can I best reach out?
Mhm.
And then that way you have time to follow up with them after the fact. And that might be better for both you and them, because then you might get a deeper, more cohesive response.
Thoughtful, yeah, more thoughtful response. That is such an excellent point. Yeah, I know. After I speak, my adrenaline was really high, and sometimes I'm like really shaky, and yeah, and people come up to you, and you're like overwhelmed. So yeah, I mean, speakers can get overwhelmed too, and like Rebekah said, or they might just have a tight schedule. Yeah, so excellent. Just try to gauge the situation. If you're not good at that, maybe just plan on following up with them and just making sure you have their contact information. But yeah, how I usually handle that is I will say, like, if somebody wants to talk to me afterwards, they can buy me a gin and tonic. I do mean that literally, but I also just kind of mean that as like, let's go somewhere and sit down. Like, I say that for a reason, to like, let's go somewhere and talk, rather than like, yeah, bombard me right after talk. So excellent point there. But yeah, embrace the exhibit hall, take notes, get to know people. If you don't come back from Hacker Summer Camp with at least one new connection, I'm going to be very disappointed in you, and you really don't. It's already hot in there. So I have some Celsius and I have some Fahrenheit. Remember, you are going to the desert in August. Deserts get very cool at night and they get very hot in the daytime, and it is very dry, and it can be a dry wind. So again, just can't emphasize this enough. You're going to get dehydrated, your skin's going to get dry. This is going to affect your brain. Stay hydrated and stay cool so that your brain can function, so that you can enjoy Hacker Summer Camp. Cannot emphasize this anymore. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Carry things around with you if you can. Oranges are good. I did have an issue with dehydration at DEF CON one year, and somebody pulled an orange out of their backpack, and I immediately felt better consuming it. So that might be easier too. And lastly, we just want you to have fun. Hacker Summer Camp is fun. I do have a little bit of FOMO not going. 3 years is a long time. I will consider trying to return again. I once spoke 7 times. The last time I was there, I spoke 7 times in 1 week, or 6 times in 1 week. And one of them was at SquadCon, I think, back when it was the Village. Or or before SquadCon, when it was still the Village. So yeah, and that's probably why I haven't been for so long, because that was an exhausting week. I do not recommend
Did it?
speaking. Like, there were sometimes I was speaking like twice in one day. It was too much. So, but go have fun. Learn a lot. SquadCon is going to be amazing. Support our fantastic group here, and yeah, just I don't know. I would just want you to have fun. If you're not going, I don't want you to be all depressed about it. I know that we're talking about how great it is, but it's also not the be all end all. There's also plenty of where, most likely where you live, there's probably a B-sides. There's communities, that you definitely can stay in touch. And if you want to still kind of spy on what's going on out there, stay on social media. See what people are doing, because it can be fun to kind of live vicariously through that. Or also think, oh, I'm so glad I'm not there, when you see the line, when you see a line full of people, somebody takes a photo, like an authorized photo, and post it, because I think the conference can do some things. Um, but yeah, there's a way that you can still join in from abroad. I think next year maybe we could plan a little bit earlier to help people, even maybe even in the spring, to help them like budget and plan for this. So maybe we can do that next year to help people, rather than apologies for this last minute dish of the other week.
Add there is one, we do have a virtual option for folks who want to participate.
Oh,
And the main stage will be live streamed, so they'll be able to participate in that. And so whenever you go to where you would go to register for a ticket, there's a virtual admission option. And then also for the cost factor, while we're factoring in, you mentioned oatmeal and things like that of what you can do. For folks who are a registered attendee for SquadCon, breakfast and lunch are included on both days, and snacks as well. And then we were mindful too for like lunches to make them box lunches. So if there's extras, feel free to grab one. You could take it for dinner. For the fact that we were mindful of how we had to cut and contrive and plan, we wanted to make sure that we could provide for our attendees as well. So if nothing else, make sure that you come by for the keynote because the breakfast will be served. You can catch the keynote session, get yourself a full meal, and then if you have other events throughout the day, you can attend as well. Obviously, the preference would be stay for all of SquadCon. It's fantastic. The air is clear up there. But if you, as you mentioned, looking at your schedule, planning accordingly, factor that in. You know, get your free meal, get the keynote, and then adjust accordingly. But yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone there. And Tracy, thank you for your time and insight.
Well, it's my pleasure. I really want people to have a great experience, and I'm looking forward to SquadCon next year. Yeah, and you're right. There's so much to offer within SquadCon, so I hope people stay the whole time. You made a great point about the virtual attendance. You can attend SquadCon virtually. I believe the Black Hat keynote is streamed, so I believe you can catch that. So yeah, if you're curious and you're not able to attend, you should be able to find some streams or other content online. So with that, let's wrap this up. So everybody have an excellent Hacker Summer Camp 2025, and let's look forward to the recap and look forward to next year. So thank you all and have a great day.